Now, to our keynote speaker tonight. You all know him. He served as United States Senator from Massachusetts from 1979 to 1985. Prior to winning his Senate seat, he served other governmental posts, including those of U.S. Representative and Massachusetts Assistant Attorney General. In 1991, he announced his bid for the 1992 Democratic presidential nomination. He left that race in May of '92. Many of you also know his affiliation with Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. In 1986, he was one of the first people to undergo an experimental bone marrow transplant to treat his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. In 1990, he was the featured speaker at Dana-Farber's Patient Reunion, a gathering held for survivors of bone marrow transplantation. Currently, he serves as a governor and trustee of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and is of counsel at the Boston law firm of Foley, Hoag, and Elliott. He's the author of A Call to Economic Arms, Forging a New American Mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, will you give a warm PMC welcome to Paul Tsongas.
Thank you. Save your energy. Well, this is a very interesting format we have here. The screen is in front of the lectern. You know, in politics, you can understand it because in politics, image is more important than reality. But I thought you bikers were different, but I guess not. I'd like to congratulate Billy for getting me here. He's been trying to get me to bike for years. And as some of you know, I take swimming very seriously and I compete. I just heard a hiss. We're not going to take your money. And I'm very careful not to mix my sports because I hardly make it as a swimmer as it is without getting into complications. But he urged me to come tonight, and I was pleased to do it. But I was sitting here thinking of all of you going to be biking tomorrow, and after I speak, I'm driving back to the Cape. And I do have room, actually. I can drop you off in Provincetown. But anyway, I was thinking about it, and it just doesn't seem fair. And so, coming up, I decided that at the time you leave tomorrow, at 6 a.m., I will go down to the pond that I swim at every day, and at 6 a.m. in the cold rain, dive in as a show of my support. And then when Billy started to talk about how bad the weather was going to be, I said, the hell with it. So I'll dive in, but it won't be 6 a.m. But it'll be earlier than I usually do, because I want to feel the same discomfort. See, he said to jump into a puddle, right? Well, mine's a big puddle. It's called a pond. Let me make just a couple comments. One, I'd like to congratulate Billy for what he's done. I mean, this is a remarkable event. And it just goes to show that some people who have initiative and a vision can really change things. And I hope you feel good about this. And I want you to think about him tomorrow when the rain is falling on your face. And you know that he was in charge of every aspect. The weather, he could have gone to the Farmer's Almanac, right? All summer, perfect weekends. The one Saturday it's going to rain like hell, he picked it. with that kind of instinct, you should be a Republican. Half laughed, half jeered, so it's a pretty representative audience from what I can say. On a serious note, the fact is that this is enormously important for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And particularly as time goes on, and the amount of monies available for health care and research and development is going to shrink as we deal with the deficit in health care costs, which you know is going to be the major debate starting in September. More and more of the research that is done on all kinds of cancers are going to have to be financed to a larger extent by these kinds of activities. And so it's not just, in my mind, a continuation, the growth of what has happened in the past, but the fact is you're going to begin to replace some of the withdrawal that will inevitably take place on the federal level. So as this is not just more of the same, this is, I think, is critical and will become more so as time goes on. Secondly, I hope that you all, as Billy suggested, that you will see this as something important, not just for Dana-Farber and the money you raise, but also as part of your own lives. That life is a series of experiences, some more important than others, some more meaningful than others, and this is the kind of thing that when you reflect back on what you've done over the year, that you will really feel good about. And given the energy level here tonight, I suspect I don't have to tell you that. The final thing I would say is, as Billy said, I'm a cancer survivor. I thought it would be, let me see, on September 29th, I will celebrate 10 years of having had cancer and survived. You know, back in January of 1991, when my wife and I and our kids were thinking about running for president to try to get these economic issues out of, I went to my doctors at Dana-Farber, Dr. Tekborian and Dr. Canellis, and I said, this is going to sound kind of strange to you, but I'm thinking of running for president. It seemed very strange to Canellis because he's a Republican. That was just... But anyway, I said, I want you to test me. Give me every test you can. I want to make sure that I'm okay and that I can endure the rigors of running for president, which is, as you know, a year straight out with no rest whatsoever. And they gave me all kinds of tests for the cancer, but also my cardiovascular system, all of that, stress, you name it. And when they called me up, they said, you are physically able to do it. We make no representations about your mental health. The fact is that I have had cancer. I had it in 1983, went through a bone marrow transplant in 1986, had a reoccurrence in 87, and had a reoccurrence November 2nd of last year, the day before the presidential elections, which is a hell of a way to celebrate losing your race for president. But the fact is I'm alive today because of what Dana-Farber has done. I was originally treated at the Bethesda Naval Hospital, and after 3 weeks there, without any pejorative sense of that, I came up here because one of the doctors I knew in Boston, I called up and I said, if you had what I had, what would you do? She said, I'd get on a plane and come to Dana-Farber. And that's what I've done, and I am the lucky recipient of all their knowledge and all the results of the work that you all do. And on a personal level, let me put it this way. When I was a young child, my mother had tuberculosis. And when I was a year and a half, I have a twin sister, a year and a half after we were born, she was taken from us and put into a sanitarium for tuberculosis. And we never knew her. And she died several years later, never having had the opportunity to get to know her children. And you can imagine the anguish of what it must have been like to be, she was in her 30s, to be in a sanitarium, and on an occasional weekend, these two kids would be brought to play outside your hospital room, rather on the grass, and look down on them. They having no sense whatsoever why they were there, and you having no capacity to reach out to hold the children that you had brought into this world. So when I got sick in 1983, the great sense of trauma that I had to deal with was I had a 2-year-old. And would my 2-year-old go through the same thing I went through, that you would never know her father? Well, my 2-year-old is 12, and she knows her father, for better or for worse. And the fact is that all the work that you do in Dana-Farber means that people like me have a chance to know our kids, to love them, to infuse them with our affections, to put an imprint on what they're about. So for all those people who have died, who we love, and for all those people who will not die because of the work that is being done, I'd like to thank you. Thank you very much.
Knew I was no match for him. I've only met him 3 times, and he roasted me. Thank you very much, Senator. That was fabulous.